So welcome to this Govn365 webinar with Simon Howard on Attackers and Hackers, a blueprint for cyber resilience. So we're very pleased to have a professional hacker with us, a good guy, not a bad guy. And in terms of, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate them. Just put them in the Q&A or chat, and I'll keep an eye on that as we go through. Before we get started, I just want to share what Govn365 does. Essentially, we help simplify governance. We do an in-person evaluation with the board and the exec, which is a facilitated self-assessment, essentially an organizational health check, which ensures alignment on where the organization is now. And we help then the group land on the top 2 to 3 organizational priorities to add value or reduce risk. We then follow up with coaching sessions on a quarterly basis to support you to embed better practices and turn those actions into value. So alignment, focus, value. We're also running an initiative called Pay It Forward, where we are helping corporates to contribute 50% of the cost of the annual subscription for a not-for-profit, and Govn365 will contribute the other 50% to go through the process for a year. So if you know of any corporates who would like to be sponsors or charities that you think would benefit through the process, then please let me know. There's a link. It's on our website. There's a link, and I'll just put that in the chat now so that people can see that. Cool, so that's in there now. So one of the areas we evaluate under the 10 different areas is digital and information technology. So this covers areas like cybersecurity, data privacy, digital transformation, which will cover AI, areas that are risks and opportunities for your organization. Cybersecurity and AI are regular topics on boards and executive team agendas, and with it changing so rapidly, organizations are struggling to keep up and know how best to harness the positive aspects as well as mitigate for some of the riskier factors. But with over 20 years of experience in the IT industry, starting life as a computer programmer and then moving into security engineering, architecture, management and strategy, Simon also co-founded and assists with the running of Australia's largest hacker conference, KaiWaiCon. I probably said that wrong. Previously known as
Kawaii. It's Japanese for cute.
Oh, there we go. He's also the founding member and CTO of Bastion Security, a New Zealand cybersecurity consultant. And what I didn't realise is he deals with almost every government department in New Zealand, most of the banks, big US companies on the NASDAQ, car companies, as well as one or two people, SaaS companies. So from 1 or 2 people to 1.2 million, which is the largest company he deals with. So, pretty vast experience. So welcome, Simon. Fantastic to have you on the webinar.
Thank you, Gerry. Cheers.
First up, I wanted to get a view from you on your experiences with businesses and how prepared boards and executive teams are for the changes that are happening at the moment. There's so many changes in the, whether it's cyber, whether it's AI, in the technology space. What's your view?
Yeah. Well, there's a huge variety of the level of preparedness in the boards that we experience across there. We've got around 250 active clients that we deal with, and that number's growing every day. Cyber is now getting a lot more attention at the board level, like cybersecurity is the new health and safety. And it's not just an IT issue though, like the board's starting to understand that it's not just the IT nerds in the corner there, it's like an enterprise level risk. And some of our clients are just starting on that journey. So this is they're engaging with us. This is their first time they want to look at what the overall state of their organization is from a cybersecurity perspective. And some of the companies that are just starting on their journey, you as New Zealand citizens would think, geez, I thought they would be way down the path. I thought they'd be really mature by now. But a lot of them are just starting that journey, whether their board had only just sort of decided, right, cyber is something we need to care about, or not sure what the impetus. Sometimes a breach is what kicks them into gear. Like they'll have a data breach or a ransomware incident or some kind of cybersecurity event where they're like, whoa, shit, we better do something about this now. And some of our clients, they've been on this journey for 5-10 years, and they're at a very good maturity level. They're doing all the right things, and now it's just, when it pops up at the board meeting, it's just a check-in. They look at the risks in the heat map, and they see, is everything being looked after appropriately? Yep, and then they're on to the next topic. So we're a really wide variety.
Cool. So you mentioned like they're doing all the right things. So what are all the right things? What would you say if you're giving advice to a company, is some of the sort of basic things they should be doing, but also some of the, maybe more advanced things they should be doing?
Yeah. The basic things that they should be doing are perhaps having a penetration test. So looking at the external boundary, so the internet-facing systems, can an attacker compromise them, and within a given time frame. Once they've done that, they may have like a web application. That's their business is they're a SaaS company. They've got a web application that all their clients interact with. Have you ever had that tested? Has anyone ever looked at that, scratched under the surface, and see if there's any ways to manipulate that to leak your customer data out, and which would result in a privacy breach, maybe access the underlying system, and compromise that? So those are sort of like your really like, have you done those things? And like, I don't mind if you've got an internal team that does that. If you've got someone in the team who's really passionate about hacking and security, they might be able to do some of that baseline stuff for you. But at a board level, you perhaps would want some independent assurance that you've done that type of review. The next sort of questions you need to ask is, what do we need to protect? And so that what we need to protect would tie into what type of testing you would do. So like, we're a SaaS company, we've got an application, we need to protect that because all our customer data is in there. What types of threats are relevant to us? So there's a range of different threat actors who will attack an organization. They can be anything from a script kiddie, which is just like a young kid in their parents' basement. They've got a computer and lots of spare time on their hands, and they're just hacking anything they can for fun and out of curiosity. You've got hacktivists, who are threat actors that are motivated by some political ideology. And so if you're an oil company, an hacktivist might be targeting you because they don't like the fact that you're destroying our environment to produce your product. We've got nation state actors. So that would be like your North Koreans, your Russians, your Chinese, going after your organization to steal intellectual property, which is something competitors would also potentially do if they're not too ethical. And then you've got organized crime groups. So those are the professional ransomware operators. And you've also got potentially your own staff internally, an insider threat. You need to consider the business risk, and what would be an appropriate risk to accept. But once you've identified your risks through this process, decide whether decisions around risks have been made at the right level. So have you got someone low down in the organization who's seeing all these risks and just going, oh, they're fine, they're nothing to worry about? Or are they actually really important things that someone at the board or a senior leadership team should be considering and making decisions on? Then you could look at a framework for measuring your maturity. So there's the NIST framework is really good. So that's a US standards body that releases a framework to identify how you can detect, respond, identify threats within the organization, and measures you in a scale of 1 to 5 of how mature you are at doing either or any of those tasks.
All right, sounds good. So if you were a hacker, and in terms of hacking into an organization, what would where would you start? Where are the vulnerabilities that you can hack into for a company? So how would you go about hacking into a company?
Yeah, lots of hackers are lazy. They want to apply the KISS methodology, which is keep it simple, stupid. Like, I want to use the least amount of effort possible to try and compromise you, because if I have to spend hours running some elaborate exploit chain to compromise you, then that's time that I'm not going to be spending doing gaming or doing something else. So I want to do the simplest thing first. So the first thing I do is look at your boundary. What have you got on the internet? What have you got that you perhaps hadn't updated recently that might have a security vulnerability in it that I can exploit? And can I leverage any of that to get onto your internal network, which is where all the juicy stuff is. If I can't get on anything from the external internet-facing systems, then I will look at who works in the organization and I might try and phish them. So that's where I'm sending them an email purporting to be someone else, purporting to be an inbox that needs to be cleared out, and all you need to do is log into the inbox and get yourself some more space. I'll collect your username and password in there. If you haven't got that two-factor authentication configured, that's where you might get that text message to your phone or have to punch in a little extra code. Then I might get into your email, into your systems. I'll then search around for other things, try and get onto your VPN or your remote access solution, and then try and get onto your corporate network from there. There are some scenarios where physical access might be good. Like I might go and scope out where your offices are, look at what wireless networks you've got exposed and see if I can get onto any of them. The most brazen of criminals might try and go and plant a device within your office. So maybe get into a meeting room and connect a little device to the network jack. I'm not sure how that type of espionage, how popular that is in New Zealand, but we do have a range of clients who engage us to do that kind of physical security testing as well. And then once you're on the corporate network, a lot of companies will have like a hard outer shell, but everything is soft and squishy on the inside. Like it's super easy once you're on the network just to run rampant, do whatever you want on there. So that's where the detection and response capability of an organization becomes very important.
Yeah. Okay. So in terms of things like phishing, and that seems to be pretty popular, getting emails. I've had loads of emails saying, can you release this $50,000 expense from one of the team or whatever. So what can companies do to educate and protect staff from things like that?
Yeah, so there's some really interesting research just come out of Google in the past week, and they're saying like all these phishing simulations that we're running for organizations, like they don't really work. They're not really training good behavior, and they want to switch the model and make it more like a fire drill. So for a fire drill, you're told on Friday there's going to be a fire drill, and we're going to practice going down the stairs in an orderly fashion, not taking all our gear with us, walking out in the street. And then so we practice that with upfront knowledge that it's going to occur. So what they're saying is instead of us trying to trick people into clicking links and stuff and then stealing their passwords and then someone telling them off, it's not a good way to do a simulation anymore to educate staff. What we should be doing is a phishing fire drill where we educate the staff. We tell them about different things that might look like phishing and how links can be hidden and other nefarious means that the hackers use, and then inform them. We run a session saying, hey, this is a phishing email. Someone might ask you to run a command, and the command looks like this. Someone might ask you to click on a link, and the link will look like this. And then we collect the metrics of how many people actually participated in that fire drill or that phishing fire drill and educated themselves on it. The problem is that you're never going to get 100% success rate in any of these phishing type scenarios. And me as an attacker, all I need is access to one person in order to gain a foothold, in order to do bad things. So you can train phishing as much as you like, do all these fire drills or whatever you want to do, but at the end of the day, it comes down to detecting and responding to a baddie on your network. Is where the rubber hits the road. That's what the really important thing is that we're trying to sort of push home for our clients is, can you detect and respond to a threat?
Yeah. And so is that more the systems approach in terms of detecting those incursions and raising them with the board or the IT company or IT?
Your IT provider, your internal IT team, whoever's looking after the detection capability within your organization, they need to have good processes in place. They need to exercise them regularly, like doing tabletop exercises or live action drills. But like being able to effectively and rapidly respond to an issue, because someone who's phished you and they've got onto the network, like the time from when they've got that foothold to when they like perhaps are like the organized crime group is going to ransom you, like that window of time, you need to make sure that you jump on it as soon as they've got that foothold, so they don't have the time to get the lay of the land, plan their attack, and then deploy the ransomware and
Yeah.
really screw your business over.
Yeah. So as an executive or a board member, what do I need my IT company or my IT team to be raising with me? What sort of information or data do I need to be hearing about? Pretty quickly by the sounds of it.
Yeah, I think that maturity matrix is a really good thing for boards to understand, the NIST score. There's also ISO 27001, which is another standard that you can adhere to. And with ISO, you can actually get your organization certified. And there's other benefits in doing that outside of cybersecurity. Like if you are, a lot of my clients deal with banks. A lot of my SaaS clients deal with banks, and the banks will have quite heavy security requirements on that company who's going to deal with them, because they understand some of that bank's customers' data potentially resides with them. So if you align with like ISO standard, then you can use it to benefit you when you're going for RFPs and tenders, and use it as a business benefit. Yeah, I think that NIST framework and understanding that how you can detect and respond, where you sit on that 1 to 5 scale, 1 being very bad and 5 being very good, and then measuring that over a period of time. Like, so 12 months ago, we were a number 2 at the ability to detect, and we invested all this money, this capital, we trained these people up, and now we're at a 2.5. We've actually improved our ability to detect an incident occurring on our network.
Yeah. And you mentioned supply chain. So how much risk is there in terms of, whether it's suppliers or people you deal with, in terms of an incursion coming via your supply chain as opposed to directly?
Yeah, we've dealt with multiple supply chain attacks within our team for a variety of different customers. So it's definitely an issue. It's definitely an issue in New Zealand. It depends on what your supply chain is, who you're using to provide different services. I've seen managed IT providers forgetting to patch critical systems that are connected to the internet when they shouldn't have been, and then resulting in all of their clients getting ransomware, which is like that's a real it's hard if you're on the board or if you're even consuming services from the service provider. How do you know what type of due diligence they're doing? So how do we assess them? How do we bring to account for their cybersecurity practices? And that would be part of your due diligence for onboarding a new supplier, just like how the banks will force my clients to prove that they're doing cybersecurity well by having an ISO certification or aligning to ISO. You should be doing the same thing for your suppliers. You should be saying, okay, IT group who are looking after my phones and my laptops and my desktops, what are you doing about cybersecurity? And give them a range of like 20 questions in a spreadsheet that they have to ask. And it'll make, if they're not thinking about it now, it'll make them think about it.
Yeah. Oh, very good. And coming on to AI, so most organizations, their staff are probably using it without them even knowing. And you had a word for it. We talked about shadow.
Shadow IT.
Shadow IT, yeah. So in these organizations that haven't got their act together around AI, and that's probably a lot of organizations, knowing what the guardrails are, what the risks are, again, where do they start with that when there is people using ChatGPT and things like that in their organization?
Yeah. So I've done for a lot of organizations around the country. I've gone in and just done a presentation to them about the dangers and risks and benefits of using AI. And so it's just an open and frank conversation with the whole team. And a lot of them, a lot of people are reluctant to try because they don't know what it is or what it will do. Some of them are just going head first into it because they're like, cool, this will help me like write my job descriptions for new positions I need to add on Seek or whatever it is. Some of them are sort of in between. And if they don't understand, like a lot of these models have been trained with a lot of biases. So you've got like the Llama model, which is Facebook's one, and that's been traced on Facebook data, which just isn't the best. There's a lot of potential racism in there. There's a lot of white dudes' opinions, and so if you're using that in a government context, perhaps, and using AI to help you inform policy and make decisions around people that aren't white American dudes, you may be introducing biases into the things that that it's writing for you. And if you're not carefully reviewing that and considering that, it could end up with some really bad policy coming out the end of it. And I'm not saying that government departments are using it to write policy, but that's just one example of the thoughts. So in Australia, they're actually there's some really good guidance about using AI for automated decision-making processes, and how you can remove some of these biases, and how you can train the way that you prompt the AI to consider these different use cases as well. There's obviously privacy issues with it. So if you're pasting in a list of client data and you want it to transform from like a CSV file to some other type of format, now if you haven't paid for that model, if you're using just like a freebie version, there's potential that data can be used now for training and for future models that get generated from that company. So yeah, talking to your staff about it, understanding what the biases are, the privacy risks, talking about use cases. So like, you can use it for this, it's safe for this, and then say, but don't use it for that. So never put customer data in there would be one. Now, there are some scenarios if you like, Microsoft now has got some of the models you can deploy in Azure. So you can have your own private version of ChatGPT in Azure. If you're doing that, then and you've got appropriate security controls around your cloud environment, there's potential you can put customer data in there. Now it's within the cloud, within your environment. You've got good guardrails in place. You've got good security controls. We can deal with that customer data and this stuff. And I know companies in New Zealand who are working on ingesting board papers and helping and using AI to act as like a virtual advisor to the organization based on the historic board information from that company and financial data from Xero and lots of other things. But that's all in a private contained environment. They're not using public models to do that kind of thing.
And is that the private one? Is that the paid for, or is that more than the paid for? Is it?
Well, that Azure model is your own self-hosted, well, not self-hosted, but cloud-hosted model. So that's quite expensive going down that route. Right. You can pay for like a pro version of ChatGPT. They're constantly updating their terms and conditions. So who knows whether you pay for it and they still can use it for training data or not. I haven't read the terms and conditions of any of those models, but something that's perhaps that you would like your legal team to get involved in. But I would like push towards like that cloud-hosted Microsoft model if you want to, or you can. A lot of these models are open source now. There's a website called Hugging Face where you can download them and get your IT team to deploy a local model privately, so it's not even in the cloud publicly with some controls around it. It's hosted on-prem on your own infrastructure.
Right. Okay. So basically, sharing with your staff the risks and opportunities. So where guardrails, what you should do, what you shouldn't do. Just so they're aware of some of the issues that will come up, and sort of definitely what you shouldn't be putting into it.
And National Cybersecurity Centre, the NCSC, has got some really good guidance. They've got like a top 10 do's and don'ts there.
Where's that? Sorry?
NCSC, a National Cybersecurity Centre.
NCSC. Okay.
Yeah, it's part of the GCSB.
Right. Okay. And what about the positive benefits of AI that companies should be tapping into that they're not? What's the?
I've got clients that are using it to translate from an old esoteric programming language a system's been built in to a new modern programming language. So they're basically getting chunks of code and say, convert me from Fortran into PHP. And it's not those two exact examples, but that's sort of something very old, make it something very new. And it can do quite a good job of doing that. It can understand the full context of the application, and it can do that transformation process.
Yeah.
I've got clients that we use it internally to help with writing job descriptions, and we're looking at private models internally for consolidating our findings for pen test reports and helping us produce an executive summary of that of those findings. We are I've seen so many different use cases for these models.
Yeah. So for boards, you'd say at the moment, unless it's a private version, you wouldn't advise them using it for minutes or advice or putting data from their board minutes in.
No, not unless it's a private model.
Yeah. So even the paid version is still a risk in terms of putting that information out there.
Well, I haven't read the terms and conditions, so I wouldn't say, yeah, go for it, unless I was completely au fait with the T's and C's.
Right. Read the terms and conditions, which is, will bore most people.
Oh, yeah, it's my number. I think there are some websites that sort of demystify them.
Can you use ChatGTP to read the terms and conditions?
Yeah, yeah.
Pull out the salient points.
Yeah, you could do.
Yeah, so might be a good one. So, if you were giving advice to a small to medium-sized business that doesn't have a huge amount of resource or or money, what's the one or two tips you'd give them around, you need to do this? I know you've said penetration testing. I don't know how much penetration testing costs, but
yeah, I would hire an IT person who's good, which might be hard for you to determine if they're good or bad, but like passionate about cybersecurity. So like they look after all your systems for you and they know their way around them, but they also like security. They want to make sure that they're locked down and secure. So they've got like a little bit of a side interest in cybersecurity, and those types of people will be I find they're more meticulous about looking after the environment and making sure that it's appropriately locked down. So yeah, if you're unless you've completely outsourced it all, then if you have outsourced it all, then you'll ask your IT provider, like, what are you doing about cybersecurity? What attention do you have to it? Who have you got that's passionate about it that will be looking after my systems and making sure we don't leave anything unpatched on the internet and fall victim to a breach? That would be one thing, and the other thing I would say is deploy some good antivirus or EDR software. So I suppose the difference between AV and EDR, antivirus is just the main like signature and heuristic based detection, and then EDR adds in another layer where if you do have an incident, someone can basically log on through the software onto the machine that's affected, and they can isolate it, they can collect evidence, they can start to hunt for other threats, they can do a bit more. So your first step is like have good AV, and like the Microsoft Defender stuff now is pretty good. I would sort of steer away from any of the John McAfee's or the semantics or any of those products. Like the Microsoft is pretty good, and then if you can afford it, something like CrowdStrike would be the next step up.
Okay. And so, in terms of education of boards and execs, because this is changing so rapidly, what's your advice in terms of how do you keep on top of this? Is it relying on the IT provider? Is it something that the board needs to have on their agenda on a regular basis to upskill themselves? Who would they use? How would they do that? From your perspective, who would you use, and what sort of things would you do on how regular a basis?
Yeah, I think it should be on the agenda for every meeting. It should be like, what's a risk register looking like? What are we doing to improve in these areas? That should be at every board meeting. As far as where they should learn about the stuff, like Bastion Security can come along and talk to your board about these things. We can do training for your board. We can do tabletop exercises where we help you through different scenarios that may play out in the organization. Make sure you've got playbooks and contact lists and everything in place so that when something does go wrong, we've exercised it, we know what we're doing now, and people aren't panicking and flailing around and trying to get the information that they need. There's some really good resources. Risky Business have got an excellent podcast. I think like the number one InfoSec podcast on the Apple podcast thingy. So they talk about the news for the week, and then they also have like a a showcase. So I think it's called Snake Oilers, where they talk about look at different products that are that organisations are picking up, and they're normally pretty good companies that they review there. There's a guy called Daniel Miessler, Miessler, who's got an awesome newsletter called Unsupervised Learning, and it's all about AI advancements in cybersecurity. So just if you're a nerd, like, it's cool to read that. It sends it every week or two, but that is a great source of information. Yeah, but getting some experts in to talk to your board and to run some tabletop exercises to try to see how you would approach certain scenarios is another good thing. Also, if they haven't done the Institute of Directors, Company Directors course is also very good, and they do have a cybersecurity element in that course as well. So you may have new directors who perhaps don't have formal training, and the IOD course is awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Someone's put a question. How much is Bastion Security for a medium-sized business? I suppose it will depend on what services, but
yeah, it depends on what your company is, what they do, what you need tested. Yeah. It really depends.
Yeah. So if you need to know, I can connect you with Simon. You talked there just around if there was an incursion and how you react to that. So from I suppose, a business continuity exercise, is that something you'd recommend every business should be doing in terms of if we have when we have an incursion that potentially impacts us, is how do we react to that? Who does what? So if you were to go through a scenario like that, how do you put that together? What should be in that every good company, that's when you have that, you're going to cope with it better.
Yeah, the playbook or the incident response plan. Yeah, you need to know contact lists, like who are the people that I'm going to get into the war room when something bad happens. Escalation points. So if Bob's not here, who's Bob's escalation? Do I need to get legal involved? Do we need to get our internet service providers involved? Do we need a media liaison because this is going to hit the press and we need to smooth that over as well? Do we need to talk to the privacy commissioner? There's that list of who will be in the room at that time is super important, and to have that current and up to date, and email address, phone number, all the details that you need in order to grab that person and start kicking into it.
Yeah. So would you recommend a company actually just does a drill around that to say, right, we've got a scenario, bang, it's happening? I mean, again, like the phishing thing, whether you actually say that we're going to do a drill next week, or whether you just do that without notice. I don't know what the best position would be for that.
Yeah, I think exercising it is the best way to know if it works or not. You can have all the bits of paper in the world, but if you've never tested them, then you don't know if they'll work or not, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely running a tabletop of some sort, and you can do it internally. You don't need to pay for an external consultancy to do it. I'd love to come and do it for you and come and sit down with you and help you through that process. But maybe you, for the first few times, you just try and you run it internally and see if you can do it.
Yeah. And this question goes right above my head. So what attack surface analyzer tool would you recommend? I'm not sure what that means, but
depends on if it's external or internal. Like for external stuff, like get a Nessus or Qualys license and scan your external stuff. Internally, we really like Run Zero. That's really nice for asset discovery on an internal network and figuring out what vulnerabilities you have.
Yeah. Okay. Right. And someone's asked, will we share the recording of? Yes, we will. It will be on our website. So hopefully in the next couple of days, we'll have this downloaded on our website. So yeah, so everything will be there. I think they're the key questions I've got at the moment. Anything else you'd like to leave organisations with, Simon, before we finish?
Yeah, I think find yourself a champion within the organisation that cares about security and is interested in it, and that can talk to it, and empower them to be able to hold that hold the mantle for you, and work on improving a posture for your organization. That's key, because if you've got no one that cares about it, no one who wants to do anything about it, you might be at the board level saying it's important, but no one's actually delivering on it, then you won't be improving it or getting any better.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So the things I've taken out, which has been really useful, is the importance of actually having someone test your system. So whether it's a penetration test or testing your web application, so someone professional who knows what they're doing and can find the vulnerabilities for you. Thinking about actually what do you need to protect is a great question. So, is it customer data? Is it sort of, do you have bank accounts of people? So what vulnerable data do you have, and thinking about who has access to that and how do you ensure it's got some guardrails around it. Love the I didn't realize there's so many types of hackers: a script kiddie, a activist, a national state actor, an organized crime, an insider threat. So that's something I've learned that's new. I think the business risk, again, it links back to the previous port, is what risk do you want to take? Because obviously you can lock everything down, but then you're not going to be using things to add value to the business in terms of AI and other things.
Yeah.
So how much risk do you want to take, and making it ensure it's in places that aren't going to leave you vulnerable. So I think that's a really good one. The Nest framework you mentioned in terms of a really good one, or ISO 7001. The other interesting one is that the phishing piece is, I'd heard that you do these random emails, but it's interesting that Google has said that doesn't work, and actually doing it upfront education and actually informing people what to look for. So that was a really good insight that that I got out of there. What else? I think the supply chain is a key one as well. So whether it's your managed IT company provider, what due diligence are they doing? So how do you hold them to account to make sure that they're not bringing in a vulnerability for you? AI, again, people are going to be using it in your organization, so don't assume they're not, because they are. I think the other thing is really just have the guardrails, let them know about the risks around the bias or around, never putting customer data unless it's your own enclosed model. Microsoft's good enough antivirus software is in terms of what you've fed back. I think having this discussion on the agenda every meeting to make sure that you're keeping the risks alive, you're understanding any threats, you're understanding where you are on your maturity model, and actually doing a run through. So actually doing your business continuity plan in action. So that's my summary, I think. So thank you, Simon. Really appreciate your time and expertise, and the practical nature of it. If you're not on at the beginning, as I said, this is recorded, so we'll have it on the website. We're also, as I said, running an initiative, Pay It Forward, so where we're helping charities to build their governance maturity, and we're trying to get a corporate to pay 50%, and Govn365 will pay the other 50%. So if any of you know of any corporates or charities that want to participate, please let me know. That's it from me. Thank you very much, Simon. Thank you, everyone on the call. Really appreciate it, and have a great day. Keep safe and keep your IT safe. So,
Thanks, everyone.
Guys, see ya.